Hello, everybody. I'm the G-Man.
Hello.
Yeah, welcome to another Midwest Prayer Talk Radio impromptu test show, sort of, in a new studio, in a new setup. Wanted to give it a shot since we didn't do one Thursday because I was in here working on this. So,
Yeah, I'm shopping on Amazon for a green screen.
that's hilarious.
That's hilarious. That's
Hilar-
Hilaria. That's Hilaria, like Hilaria Baldwin, except her name is Hillary from Boston. Never mind.
Boston.
Hey, these ones that pop up and stick on the back of your chair are pretty cool.
Yeah, they
Except
are pretty cool.
I got a regular kind of chair though. It wouldn't work.
Why not?
Because my chair is a low back. It's like a piece of furniture. It's not like an office chair.
It'd still fit on there.
Yeah, I'd have to look at it. But I'm trying to shake things up a little bit. You know, people kind of like my girl cave with my angel wings and my hanging gongs and all that.
Definitely catering to the wrong group with this bunch of people.
I thought, well, you know what? If I had a green screen, I could shake it up a little bit and have some weird stuff behind me every now and then. I really like our Midwest Pair
Yeah.
Talk. So,
Yeah, I like the logo too. I got to figure out a little bit more playing with this green screen because I got a little washout on the ends.
well, as you
Down,
can see, I have. Well, I see you can like see the pleats on your screen on one side, dude.
right?
And I have a halo because I don't have a green screen, and I have AI fingers. Anyway,
There we go. You have
yeah,
AI.
we didn't have a show Thursday because Greg's working on a new pooter for us in the new office. Woohoo! And I got a tour of it before we started, and it's so nice.
It is nice. It's like the wife said last night. It's kind of like I don't know. It's kind of cool. Get all this done and get everything set up the way you want it. You get your own little sanctuary,
Yeah,
and
and then she doesn't have to sit there and be quiet while you're trying to do a show in the living room.
she generally goes to the back and does her sewing with the dogs and all that most of the time here. Well, here lately she had been there for a while. She sat out there with us and listened to us talk shit and kind of chimed in here and there. It was pretty funny.
She's
So
awesome. I love her.
she
I
is good.
love her.
Me too. I loved her so much. I married her.
I put a ring on that. And I'm wearing my new shirt Greg made me. You can't see the whole thing, but it says my dog and I talk shit about you. I wear stuff and I wear a shirt. I'm like getting to be the t-shirt queen now.
Hell yeah.
Yesterday I wore one that said it's weird being the same age as old people. And then I wore it to Myers and people were looking at me and I'm like, what are you looking at me for? I forgot I had a t-shirt on that said
I have a shirt. I was going to wear it if it hadn't been the May 4th for, May the 4th be with you. I was going to wear my shirt that says, oh, look, nobody gives a shit. And it's a skeleton with binoculars looking up. And it's like, nobody gives a shit. And I got another shirt that I made up. It said, this is my leave me the F alone shirt. Yeah, I kind of made quite a few shirts. So if you guys are interested in shirts, by the way, jump into my DMs. I can pretty much get you whatever kind of shirt you want and get it taken care of for you. So GCable at MidwestFairTalkRadio.com. Shameless self-plug.
Yeah, whatever.
I like that shirt. I like the way because the images you sent me for that shirt originally was off center. So it was off to your left. I was like, yeah, I'm going to do that same thing. But we added Misty on
because that's where I hold my dog on that side, so you wouldn't be able to read it with my dog there. See what I'm? That's why they got it like that.
I would hold the dog on the other side proudly if you like.
That's what I'm saying. No, that's what I'm saying. I hold the dog on the side where there's no print, right? So then everyone can read that. Missy is looking at him like this because her tongue always hangs out, so she'd be like this. My dog is weird. Seriously.
Hilarious.
And
my cat scaling Mount Vesuvius over here.
That's a pretty swank looking cat tree you got. It's pretty high dollar and bougie. Your cats are spoiled.
Yeah, she is.
I used to have a cat. This is this is the first time in my adult life that I haven't had a cat somewhere in my house.
She honestly looks just like Skeeter.
Yeah, she does.
The tiger print, the gray and black, and she's got a little
Mhm.
brown, actually a little brown thing that looks like a chicken nugget on her head. That's why I called her Nugget.
I call my son Nugget.
And he doesn't
my my
he
youngest son. He
understand.
answers to it. Hey Nugget, what's up? I don't know why. Ever since I watched Chelsea Handler, and she called Chewy Nugget all the time. You know that Mexican dwarf that
Oh
was her
yeah,
sidekick. She called him Nugget, and that's when I started calling Casey Nugget. And he answers to it. He don't even blink. So,
that's crazy.
so I
Um,
wanted this. I wanted to tell you something that happened
yeah.
yesterday.
Mhm.
I was sitting in the living room. And it was now my Madar unit went off. Let me look at my notes so I don't. My Madar unit went off at 1:28 yesterday during the day,
Yeah.
and then it went off again this morning at 12:52, and then it went off again at 9:42 a.m. this morning. But last night, before it went off the first time, I'm sitting in the living room with Missy. And I, for the first time in this house, saw straight on a white orb that came through the garage door
Mhm.
and went right, in the doorway, like on my couch. If I'm looking straight ahead, here's my fireplace that's a little bit to the left. I mean, to the right, and my TV's up on the above it. And then
Right.
there's like this open doorway space. And on one side of it's the garage door. On the other side of it's my bedroom door. And straight ahead is the door that goes into the utility room. Right. I looked up. Just as I looked up, this white ball of light comes through the garage door, right across that open doorway and into my bedroom, my open bedroom door, where my husband was asleep.
Yeah.
And I had to look twice because it wasn't like a peripheral vision kind of thing. It wasn't yeah, as a matter of fact, my dog Missy was laying down next to me, and she sat up and looked at it and barked.
Oh shit.
And I just sat there for a minute. It kind of shocked me,
Yeah.
but I wasn't not the least bit afraid.
Right.
Not at all. And I actually kind of laughed and said, "Dave's in there, not me." And I kind of snickered,
Yeah.
And I didn't see anything else the rest of the night. Nothing weird happened. Then the Madar went off at like 12:52 a.m. later on. I'm trying to think of what time this was when this happened. He was already in bed asleep, but that's no big deal. Hell, he goes to bed at like
Yeah. I was going to ask.
7.
5 o'clock.
Fucking 7 o'clock, he's in bed snoring. But so I'm thinking it was probably around 9 or 9:30, some ish like that. My son was at home. He was off yesterday, but he was in his room, back asleep,
Right.
watching TV in his room and probably asleep. But yeah, straight on saw a white orb. I haven't seen anything like that. That like in your face and solid since the farmhouse years
Yeah.
and years ago when we lived out in the farmhouse.
Right. Yeah. I remember.
Yeah, and my stepdaughter was even there at the time, and it came through the front window, went through the living room, the dining room, the kitchen where the patio glass door was, then turned around and shot right back between the two of us and out the front window. That was the last time. That's been a long ass time ago.
Right.
So that they're here, something's here for sure.
I think you need to get somebody to do an investigation at the crib.
You know what? That'd be awesome, except I can't get rid of the old man because he'd be a big pain in the ass around. My house is very small. You know, you've been here. It's like
He goes to
1,700
bed,
square feet.
right? But he goes to bed at 7:30. He won't even know that we're freaking there.
Yeah, he
We just
would. He
go
does.
into
He
your
goes to bed. But yeah,
and
man,
most
it's just
well,
weird.
most of the activity that you've talked about so far, I mean, has been out in the main living area, right?
Yeah, it's not even really been in my office. It's been right there in that open area space, the living room. You know, I showed you those videos, and you could I've always thought they were most orbs, and I still kind of think, you know, most orbs are dust or moisture or pollen or dander or bugs or whatever, you know. I
Right.
think most of them are, but I think there's a very, very small percentage of them that are something else
Mhm.
simply because I've caught them doing stuff that dust and mold and bugs don't do.
Right.
And I mean, when I set that camera, I got that camera in the front room there after the Madar started going off all the time. And I mean, kid you not, you know my house and you know how I am.
Mhm.
I don't have carpeting. I don't have curtains.
Right.
I have an all house April air filter on my furnace, air conditioning thing. I also have an April air humidifier to keep the static electricity down, which also helps with dust and shit like that.
Right.
You know, and I don't have any cats and I don't have dog that sheds. I have a Yorkie and they don't shed.
Mhm.
Um, so I mean, the case for dust, plus the fact that I anxiety clean like every night, because I'm a former night shifter, so I'm kind of wired for a different time zone than my husband. So he sleeps when I'm up.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
you know, I'm very meticulous about dusting and everything because of my allergies. I don't like feeling like shit.
Right.
So, and when I first started running the cameras in the house, I didn't see no dust orbs or none of that shit. I never saw. Uh, uh, can't even say I've ever saw one single dust float by.
Mhm.
And then the Madar started going off, and it was like raining glitter in my living. And the funny part about it was the majority of these things were dropping straight down from the ceiling, and all of my registers are on the floor.
Right. So it would go to figure if it was dust, it would be going from floor to ceiling.
Exactly. And
Right.
then, you know, sometimes there'd be dozens of them at one time all dropping down and they just look like glitter from heaven. I mean, pretty. And
Right.
then I'd get the big honking ones that would fly right into the camera. Then I got that one that you could see it literally formed next to the china hutch and emerged from the wall, stopped, went across the room, stopped, and then went back to the front door in the opposite direction and went out the front door. I'm like, what the kind of dust does that?
Right. Yeah.
You know,
That
so
that
we got some
watching
shit
that
going on.
right, watching shit like that, it reminds me of, watching, like, the DVR cameras. Remember sitting there and watching dust or an orb? What we assumed was dust at the time,
Hmm.
but we had the multiple cameras up on the screen, and the dust would go or orb would go from camera to camera, and it wouldn't be broke up. It was like it was on the TV itself.
I know what you mean. And you're like, how is this even possible? This isn't
Right,
even possible.
right, yeah.
Because it would go like like a
Camera
smooth
change.
line from camera to camera, two, three,
Yeah,
4, 5. And I'm like, what? This isn't even possible. What
right,
is
yeah,
happening here? Yeah,
right,
that's the same kind of shit that's going on here. And
yeah,
I'm not afraid.
right,
Don't get me wrong. It makes me interested more and gets my
right.
curiosity, but
Well, I
it
mean,
is
come on.
kind of freaking my son out.
You're a paranormal investigator, man. Come on. That's what
Yeah,
we do.
nothing, none of that shit scares me really. And you know, then you saw the video of whatever. I don't know what the hell happened the last week or so with the
That was
the
weird. The
pop,
dude,
and somebody walked across my field of vision with my camera, and it
yeah.
looks like he turned on one of my coach lights and then fizzled out. I don't know. It was weird.
Oh, I think the camera just lost sight of it, but
And the bang sound, the little
yeah,
popping
that's
sound,
what,
we actually heard that.
yeah,
And then we heard it again the next night. But this time there wasn't anything on the camera.
right.
And then we saw it's weird because like the night after that, the Myers store right down the street from me, they have a row of Tesla car chargers in the parking lot over there. And the Kokomo Police Scanner Facebook page reported somebody heard gunshots at the Tesla, or they were at the Tesla charging stations and they heard gunshots. Well, I only live, you know,
Minutes.
a quarter of a mile, a half a mile
Yeah,
max from there. And so
right.
it's like, what the what's going
And
on around here?
for content, the booms, it sounded to me like a shotgun.
It did.
It didn't sound like a handgun. It wasn't a quick
Mm-mm.
pop. It was like
No.
a bellowing boom.
Yeah. And that bright flash
Like
that
flash. Yeah, that
like
was
and a shotgun will do that in the dark. You know what I mean?
right, right. Yeah, that was weird. But then, I mean, the guy was walking, so I don't know if he was banging on stuff
Yeah,
or
I
not.
don't know. There's nothing out there to bang on. I
Well,
mean,
bang on with the stick or a bat against the garage door. Did you look at the garage door? Is there any damage on it?
yeah, no. I looked around outside the next day and everything was fine. There wasn't anything amiss whatsoever.
Right.
No, I
Yeah.
take that back. I have those little path lights,
Mhm.
those little solar path lights. I mean, I've got
Yeah.
3 on one side and then I have 6 on the other that goes to the driveway.
Right.
One of those path lights was kind of kicked sideways, like
Okay.
somebody hit it with their foot. But I don't, that wouldn't make that loud flash or that noise. You know what I'm saying? Because you can't even see that. You can't see that one from the Ring doorbell. My Ring camera is very narrow view because my front door is inset, and there's a brick wall on each side. So there's not a lot of.
Is there? I was going to ask you about that too. Is there more room where you have the ring set up now versus the other side of the door?
Yeah, there's not even enough room on the other side of the door to put the camera there.
And I only asked because when that boom went off and you could see the flash, the lens
Mm-hmm.
from the Ring camera almost washed out the entire
Mm-hmm.
high end, washed out the entire image. And then
Yeah, but
then you see that dude walking across the side.
yeah, and we would have probably been able to see him better if it hadn't been for the flash. But
Right.
I also sent you the video of my son walking up the sidewalk and coming in, and you can see as soon as he reaches where the camera can see him or sense that he's there, and the IR kicks on the camera, it's much smoother and much lower intensity, and he's very visible. There's no flash or arc
Right.
or any weird shit like that.
That was weird to me as well because like you
Yeah.
said, the lens flash in the first video was almost, like I said, overpowering the whole image itself. And then
Mhm.
when he was walking up to the door, you didn't get that overexposure by R, which was really weird.
And the weirdest part of all is that separate from the Ring camera, I have 4 Reolink cameras, security cameras positioned on each corner of my house all the way around.
Yeah.
And there is a camera that looks from that corner all the way across. You can see the front porch, the driveway, and whatnot. There's nothing on that camera.
No dude walking.
No dude walking or anything. No, it's
Wow.
only on my Ring. And I'm like, what the frick is going? I mean, I have looked through all of my video footage on because it records. My thing is set to the main cameras The Ring camera is just set to record when it's triggered, right? But my main camera is my DVR. What it does is it records constantly, but it'll throw up a flag if something triggers the parameter of what, you know what I'm saying? But the recording is still there. And then it just kind of recycles itself after a terabyte and it starts all over again. You know what I mean? That way, and in my head, son set it up that way because I wanted to make sure I could catch something weird that may not trigger the camera to come on. For instance, sound won't trigger my cameras to come on, like a gunshot,
right,
or a loud boom or explosion like that. It won't trigger my cameras to come on. Because if it did, they'd be coming on all the time. Every time I had thunderclap and whatnot, you know what I mean?
right.
But I can go back under a setting on each camera. I can go back and I can look at it. It records it in 2-hour increments, or it's either 1 or 2 hours, and it's the times. And then I can go back and figure out maybe what time it might be and then just look at the recordings. I've been able to capture, one time we had it was confirmed to be a meteor or something that flew by, but everybody in town was like, "Oh, did you hear that big explosion? Blah, blah, blah," So I went back on the cameras and looked, and I went back to the time frame. And sure enough, I didn't see a flash, but I heard the sound. My cameras did record it. So, but it won't do that just for sound. So that's why I got to set it that way. But anyway, yeah, there was nothing on the camera that was looking where it should have seen something.
Right.
There was nothing on there. I'm looking at it right now. And the camera is, you can see both of the little coach lights I got hanging there, like the little solar coach lights. One of them was off and it got turned on. Yeah. And I don't know why it even was off. But you can't. I saw nothing or nobody. I'm like, that is even more paranormal weird shit. So
yeah, that is weird.
So whatever, there's some weirdness going on here. I don't know what it is. On the flip side, though, I know a lot of other people that have the Madar units like I have. They're telling me that their units are going off a whole lot more now too. So I don't know what that means.
Yeah, I don't know. It's I still am not quite 100% sure how the Madar works.
I think it's like an EMF meter, only like way more bigger, a
little unit, and I can't see it being any more powerful than a K2, because it's about the same size as a K2, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, pretty much. It's a little bigger. It's about double the size, but still.
Okay, but still,
yeah.
You got tri-field meters that are about that size that won't pick up the intensity of what your Madar is picking up now.
Yeah.
It's
going off multiple times a day now. It's like, what? And then this is weird too. Okay. I have a Geiger counter in my office. You may be able to hear it tick in the background every now and then.
Yeah, I hear it.
Yeah. That's my little Geiger counter. I got it plugged in. It's sitting over here next to my, it's on my desk, but it's like in front of the window a little bit. So some of the sun gets on it sometimes. And I have a little radiograph or whatever, the little thing with the 4 wings, and it spins around when the light hits it, one of those, and it sits in the window and it'll spin when the sun comes in. But it's so weird because right around the same time that the Madar was going off, and also I had just read that we had like a big solar flare or whatever. Now my baseline in my office runs about 60. I mean, not 60, my bad. Let me look over here. Okay. It runs about 12 CPMs, measurement. And anything under 60 is acceptable and considered basically normal, at least according to all the paperwork and the website that I went on about learning about how to use this a little bit.
Yeah.
I looked over there at that thing one day and it was like almost 40. And I'm like, what the hell is going on here? And my radio radiography or radiograph. I'll show you. I can't even speak. It looks like this.
Oh,
There.
yeah. Okay.
Remember from elementary school, you know, the light shines on it and spins around, right?
Right.
This thing was flying. So I don't know what happened, but I don't know if it was like a burst of radiation from the sun. You know what I mean? Because my window was open, the sun was shooting down on it, and I don't know if that's not what's triggering the madars to go off. That there's something weird going on with the sun. I don't know. I'm just trying to figure it out, and nothing fits. Honestly, right. I bought this thing. I got it on the scratch and dent at Amazon. This size one was regularly like $50 or $60, but it had a crack in the bottom down here. You know, okay. it was a seller, so it was damaged, but the bulb part was perfect. It was just a little crack on the stand in the bottom, and so I bought it for like $10. And it's great. It works fantastically. But I bought it so that I could practice my kinetic energy stuff, you know, try to make it move.
Right.
But it's been interesting me using it to track what's going on with the sun. So there's that. Anyway.
Well, I put up a CPM definition and it was for marketing and it wasn't for what I needed it for.
Cost per mile, per mil.
Per mil. And I'm not sure how to get rid of it, but it is what it is. So everybody knows what that means, I guess. Sorry about that. I'm a dork. But yeah,
it's counts per minute. In radiation detection, CPM stands for counts per minute, a measure of the rate at which radiation detector detects the ionization events. It's essentially a measurement of the number of radiation particles like alpha or beta, or electromagnetic waves like gamma detected by the Geiger counter or other radiation detector within 1 minute. It's a relative measure, not a unit of radioactivity, and its meaning depends on specific instruments and the type of radiation being measured. So it's just measuring the parts per minute of whatever's hitting it, but it jumped.
Yeah.
You know, quite a bit. So there you go.
Maybe that'll be better.
I don't know if you can remove that.
I can't. It's up there forever. It's on the internet. Once it hits the internet, it doesn't go away.
It's there forever.
It's there forever.
So anyway, yes, weird stuff going on, you know. And I wonder if it, you know, there's a connection between it and the other stuff I'm seeing in the house. That orb.
Very well could be. That's what I'm saying. You need to have an investigation at your house. Come on.
Come on now. Come on.
I'm going to make a shirt that says, come on. Come on.
Oh, there's another one I saw. What did it say?
Why is it?
I'll think about it. What?
Nothing. I'm doing nothing over here. Mind your own business. But
hold on.
Hold on.
There's one. Hold my drink. Hold my beer.
I think I ought to do a shirt that says "Come on," and I need to do a shirt that says "Hold on," not HOLD. Hold.
Hold on.
HODE. Hold on. Mm-hmm. That's funny. I got this little thing that's sticking up. It's annoying the shit out of me. There we go. So yeah, I don't know. We need to figure out how to get an investigation done at your crib.
Well, it's not hard. Figure out what weekend I'm going to be home, and then I'll break it to Dave, and he'll just get over it. But we don't have. I mean, it had to be a real small investigation because, like I said, I ain't got. My house a little. It's like a mini barn.
I'll bring 4 people.
Yeah.
Do you
I
want cameras set up, or do you want to use your cameras that you have set up at your house?
well, my cameras are on the well, I do have cameras in I do have 2 in the house.
Yeah.
Yeah, and but they run off of apps on my phone, so I
Well, I
mean,
mean,
it's up
the
to you.
last investigation that was me adjusting for you guys watching the YouTube. That's me adjusting the green screen a little bit. It's wrinkled. I got to figure out. I need to hem it, but anyway, um, I mean, we can bring the DVR. We would only have to set up X amount of cameras in the hot spots because you've got basically the main area right there.
Mhm.
You know, if it's warm outside, we can set up outside. We can set up in the garage. We can set up where it's not intrusive to him, and see what's going on. See if we can't figure out what the hell's going on because
Mhm.
it's not nothing. I honestly,
Yeah.
you definitely got something going on, especially if you're eyeballing orbs. That's really honestly, Deb, that's the only believable exception I have for orbs. If you could visibly see it with your eyes, and
Yeah.
of course, I mean, you're credible because I've known you forever and we've already had this discussion. But anyway, if you tell me that you saw Jesus walking on water yesterday, I'd be like, holy shit, let's go look.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I feel the same way about you. I trust your judgment, and I know that you're going to do in your mind whatever it takes to try to figure out what you saw, and you're not really going to tell me till you're pretty sure that you can't figure it out.
Right. Yeah.
So, and you ain't dumb. So, yeah, that it's something's going on in here, and I don't think it's just here. I think there's a lot of people out there that are. I think things are ramping up. And then I saw another video that came on, dropped on the internet a few days ago with another whistleblower from UFO stuff, and I heard that guy say that he was taking his life in his own hands by speaking out. And part of the reason why he was speaking out was because he felt threatened and that his life had been threatened. This guy's a whistleblower for the military government. Now, I don't trust anything that comes out of the government, frankly, including disclosure stuff.
Right.
They've been lying to us for 75 years. Why would they change their tune now? And I think that they're just trying to muddy the waters to hide shit, still. So, but I found it interesting that this guy came forward. He seemed genuine, but you know what? I've thought people seemed genuine before. It turns out I was not correct. Uh,
Facts.
so I don't know about this, but it is interesting I peep it. You know what I'm saying? I keep my eyes on stuff and I watch, but I don't know.
Right.
I don't have 100% full on opinion about any of it.
Yeah, I have a hard time with the guys that say, me telling you this can get me killed.
Yeah, that bothers me because it's like, why are you doing it? Then you have kids.
Yeah. Why are you running your mouth about it then? Anyway, this is some Spies Like Us shit with Chevy Chase and Dan Aykroyd. Come on.
Yeah, our spooks are us, man.
Get out of here with that. Come on. If it was that big of a deal, there'd be no way in Hades I would talk. If someone was to say, hey, look, if you disclose any of this, I will have to kill you. I'd be like, what? Disclose what? I don't know what the hell you're talking about, pal. My name is Bennett and I ain't in it.
And I've been running around here for the last 40 years telling everybody who listens whatever I see and hear.
Right.
And I've got shit in the yard and witnesses and everything else. And they just ignore me like I'm invisible, which is fine. But I'm just saying, I don't need the government to tell me this shit is real. I already know.
Right. Yeah.
I've seen it myself. And so have millions and millions of other people. We don't need you.
Yeah, that's the thing, even with the paranormal, I know it's real. You know it's real. I don't need anyone else to tell me, and I'm not trying to tell nobody else that, whatever they believe is wrong. I mean, either you do or you don't. I don't give a shit one way or the other, but this is what I know. And this is how I do it. And this is my evidence. And this is, you know what I mean? So I guess you just put out there what you got. And I really have a hard time with the whole, well, I mean, I could die. Somebody, they'll end my life if they know that I'm talking about this. How many times have we done a show talking about UFO or paranormal back in the day? And Deb and I, we've been doing this since like 2012, 2011. I mean, we've
Okay.
been doing this shit a long time. And we would have shows where we would talk about ufology or we would talk paranormal. Well, I mean, we always talk all that. But when we'd have a serious conversation about it and really get down into the meat and potatoes of the content, we would start having technical problems.
Mm-hmm.
There have been shows where we've started talking about ufology and really getting down into it, and the show stream just stops.
Yeah, right. I mean, that's happened to me when I've been interviewed on other shows too.
Yeah.
Literally, I mean, one time I was being interviewed on a show, and literally the whole power to my entire house went out, including my internet, and I just disappeared. You know, so it's like they,
What
they everywhere.
Yeah. And mostly with the ufology, I found like when we do shows, deep in-depth shows about ufology, I have technical issues on my end trying to keep the show running.
Yeah, but it's funny, not so much with the paranormal stuff though.
Not at all. Not at all. We could talk spooky dookies all night long and nothing happens, man. Spooky dookies. We start talking about the flying spooky dookies and we're done.
And then the spooks get pissy. That's what I call them. The spooks get pissy.
I've never, in all the time that we've been doing this, been contacted or approached and said, you need to stop talking about that.
Me either. No, 40 some years of me talking about all my experiences. Nobody's ever come up to me and say, you need to stop talking about that. Shut up.
Right. Yeah. I mean, even with the length that we've been doing this, and I don't know, man, for someone just out of nowhere, some, Joe Blow nobody coming out of the woodworks going, if I talk about this, they're going to kill me. Or I'm sorry, they're going to unalive because we're getting dinged on YouTube for this anyway. So what the hell, right?
Right.
I mean, we've said word I don't know how many times now.
But I'm not, and then there's another thing. I'm not that big a deal. I'm not paranoid about shit because honestly, this is a big ass country and there are millions and millions and millions of people here. And and they're out talking about all kinds of stuff, right? But I'm just one little old lady in the middle of nowhere telling her story. Right. Why in my mind would I ever even remotely think anybody would be threatened by me or threaten me? I'm nobody. Come on now. I ain't nobody. Right. They're a lot bigger fish in the sea if they want to mess with people. It ain't going to be me. And if I claim that I am, then I got issues, frankly. You know what I mean? That's how I feel, in my opinion, with me. You know what I mean? So I just keep running my mouth.
A couple Midwesterners with nothing to say with a paranormal UFO podcast in the middle of nowhere.
And the spooks probably think most people think we're crazy anyway, so who the hell cares?
What was that water drop after I said that? Did you hear that?
No.
It sounded just like shit hitting the toilet.
Well, now they're giving us our sound effects, right?
That would be hilarious. You guys go back and listen to that. It was right around the 40-minute mark. Rewind back and listen. Like poo hitting the water.
Was it my pop? It wasn't my drink, was it?
I have no idea.
I don't think
it was. But anyway, that was hilarious. I was watching a video today. I watch these guys on YouTube. They're a family channel and they do old cars or he does cars. He buys them from junkyards and fixes them and all that stuff. Him and his family. It's a family affair and whatnot. But they went to Eastern State Penitentiary on a family vacation. They're doing last year they did a an eastern border road trip where they went up to New York and back down. They live in Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
So they went up the eastern coast and saw all the historical rigmarole, Boston and New York and Philadelphia and all that, and Paul Revere's route and house and shit like that. And they went to Eastern State Penitentiary on one of the day ventures that they had. And I was thinking, out of all the shows that we have ever done, and we get EVPs on our recordings all the time while we're doing the show, or used to. We haven't as much here lately, though. But used to be able to get EVPs just by starting that before we even kick off the show. We had stuff come through. So I'm honestly wanting to go back through that Eastern State Penitentiary footage of where he was recording and see if I can hear any EVPs while he was going through on the tour. So I might have to check that out and see. I've always wondered, like, especially like even the paranormal channels on YouTube, where they'll go out and they'll put their own EVPs in it or whatnot, but just listen to it and see if I can't find something that they've missed. That it's sad that I find that to be a good time.
You know what? I've been wasting a whole shitload of time on TikTok, and there's a ton of paranormal clips on there. I send a lot of them to you if I find them. I think they're interesting. There's a lot of stuff on there that's just laughable, and it's like, God, people are gullible if they believe this shit is real. But whatever. I mean, some of it says AI right there on the bottom. Hello, can you read? But I think we should have a section. I think we should have a segment of the show. So what's new on TikTok, or what's new on YouTube paranormal? These little TikTok videos are great because they're like 30 seconds or a minute, most of them anyway.
Right.
And we should start to some of the good ones, some of the ones we can't figure out completely. See if some of our viewers might be able to figure them out. I don't know. There's a ton of stuff on there. That's the only thing, social media. I blame social media for so much skullduggery in the world today, and it is facts. But I gotta say, being a person of a certain age who spent a good deal of my adult life with I didn't even have a computer. Hell, I didn't even know how to turn one on until I was 35, right? Or cell phones, for that matter. I mean, I was still stuck to the kitchen wall with my phone, right? And if I wanted to communicate, we had pen pals. Do you know what pen pals are?
Oh,
we used to have pen pals. I had pen pals in England and everywhere. So being somebody who grew up and lived the majority of my life that way, the one thing I do love about social media, like Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, all them, is the amount of stuff that I can see. Yeah, the content, the videos of the weird stuff, the paranormal. It's the paranormal and UFO stuff that I find fascinating. People's personal, bloggy type videos. I don't really give two shakes about any of that. My life is plenty interesting. I don't need to waste time watching somebody else make a cappuccino in their kitchen, right? Or some shit like that. But I do love seeing the paranormal stuff, the UFO stuff, some of the and the science stuff. I mean, there's some legitimate cool science stuff. There's a couple of content creators that are scientists, and I love looking at their stuff. And I feel like I can almost feel my brain cells getting bigger, just in their little 30-second clips. And I love World Talk and Global Talk, because I get a little look inside the rest of the world, a little snippet of the rest of the world that I wouldn't typically see. So that is the great thing about social media that I appreciate. But there's so much crap interwoven in it that it's kind of like walking through my old backyard when the septic tank backs up, you got to be careful where you step.
Yeah.
All right. Oh,
Are you?
but
Oh yeah.
but yeah, so maybe we should have a little like when we do the show, I collect up 2 or 3 little clips from what's new on TikTok, UFOs and paranormal and whatnot. Some of it's really pretty good.
Honestly, it wouldn't be that hard to splice together some clips that we could run while doing the show. I mean,
Yeah.
it,
So what do what do you guys think out there in the audience listening to us? Let us know if you think that'd be a cool kind of thing for us to do. Because sometimes we don't, we, most of the time we usually have something to talk about, but every now and then, get a slow week and let's see what's going on in the rest of the world,
right. Well,
That'd be interesting.
most of the time we shoot from the hip anyway.
Yeah,
And
that's how we roll.
Yeah, I like shooting from the hip because I'm terribly ineffective at structure when it comes to doing our shows.
I know I am too, and I'm really not the greatest question asker. You know what I mean? I'm so used to being on the receiving end of the stick that it's kind of hard for me to flip the script and be the one to do all of the investigative, journalistic questions to all my guests. Then
Right.
I turn out to look like an idiot. So
I ask questions and stuff that I don't know. I think people want to know, but I don't know. I'm trying to try something.
Oh God, here we go. Yeah. He's experimenting.
I don't know. I like the unstructured aspect of it. Like you said, I mean, I don't like the hard hitting journalism bull.
I'm not a journalist. I'm not even a podcaster. I'm just an old lady in the middle of nowhere that likes to talk about weird shit. And won't you be my friend? I'm the Mrs. Rogers of paranormal. Won't you be my neighbor? I think people are scared of me though, actually. I got so much weird shit happening around me. They're like, I don't think so. Thanks anyway.
I mean, I could vouch for that.
Yeah. Oh well.
Nothing weird happened to me as far as UFOs until I met you.
And you say that every single time.
I do. Well, you know why?
He blames it on me, you guys. He blames it on me.
I blame it on her because the shit is facts.
Mm-mm.
It is.
What are you doing?
Until you. Greg things.
Okay.
Uh-oh. Are you there? Oh, it sounded like the audio died. I'm trying
to
make...
I'm here. What are you trying to do?
That things are working like they're supposed to. I didn't check this.
Oh. Uh-oh. Yeah, this is kind of an experimental broadcast because this is a whole new setup. New computer. Greg's got a new computer. He's got his whole brand new office. And so we're hoping that the internet connection holds up. So far, so good. We're 40, almost 50 minutes in, and you haven't dropped once. So that's good.
That's good. I was worried about the internet and being so far away from the router, but no, everything seems to be going pretty good. So I'm pretty excited. I'm pretty jazzed.
What's up with your weather? How's the weather down there? It's been rainy and crappy here all day.
It's been shitty for 3 days.
Oh, I'm so sick of the rain. Oh.
Yeah, I am too.
And I have friends that live over in Wales and the UK that would give their eye teeth to have the rain that we're getting. But
really?
Yeah, I mean, everything's turned upside down.
Are they in a drought or?
Yeah. One of my friends, Chris, he grows things, and he's shown pictures of the little polyptera, whatever thing that he grows in all the ground. It looks like my yard a couple summers ago when we had that drought, and everything just turned brown and looks like dirt.
But we're fairly just starting to get into warm weather. I mean, the UK,
I know, right? And it's cold here today. It's only 50.
Right? I don't know. how cold it is right here, right now. Right here, right now.
There was something I was going to tell you, and now I can't remember. I need to make notes because I'm old. So
Oh,
49.
it's
Gosh,
49 degrees here. This is
Mhm.
ridiculous. And there's storms and shit.
Now I remember going to the Indianapolis 500 in the month of May, which we're in the month of May now, even though it is only the 4th. Used to
It,
be the Indy 500 was an entire month of things. Now
that's when it
it's
was
one
fun.
weekend. Yeah, and Dave used to take an entire month. He used to have 5 weeks vacation, and he'd take 4 of them in May, so he could spend every day at the track, right? Because he had season tickets for 25 years.
Right.
And I remember going to a couple of practices and things down there, and it would be so damn hot. I felt like I was going to die.
Right.
And then there's times when I went down there and I remember that it was so cold that I ended up having to spend $60 on a stupid hoodie so I didn't freeze to death because
Dude,
I thought I was going to freeze.
I've been literally sitting at the Indianapolis 500 while it was snowing.
And I was at the Indianapolis 500 when it got hit by a tornado. You remember that? Oh my
I don't
God.
remember that. What is
Oh
it you
my Lord.
tornadoes, man?
I don't know, dude. I don't know, but I mean, it was awful. And I went to a Moody Blues concert at Deer Creek. I don't even know what the hell they call it now. Room Music Center or some weird shit like that. To me, it'll always be Deer Creek. But anyway, it was a Moody Blues concert. Was it
Yeah.
Moody Blues? Uh it was either the Moody Blues or the Doobie Brothers. I can't remember which because those are the only 2 concerts I ever go to.
Right.
But we were sitting, actually we had seats under the awning, instead of out in the grass around because it's an outdoor theater. But we had really good seats, like 8 rows from the stage. A freaking tornado. It was right before the concert was starting, and they had a like cover band up front. I think they played one tune, and then they were pulled off the stage, and then the announcers came on the air and said to seek shelter immediately because there was a tornado warning. And it looked real shitty out, and it was raining, and the wind was blowing real bad and everything, and we started to head towards they have concrete buildings for bathrooms there.
Yeah.
We tried to head towards there and we didn't make it. And we got right to the edge of where the awning was. The wind was blowing so hard that it almost lifted me off the ground. And I remembered my husband he had his arms wrapped around one of the pillars next to the stage, one of the wooden like pillars. I had my arms wrapped around the other one, and he had a hold of my hand with one of his hands, and we were like right next to each other hanging on. My feet were literally off of the ground, and the wind was blowing so hard. People were screaming and running everywhere. There was hail, lightning, and then boom, they're quick. And then the wind finally died down, but the rain was like torrential. And because the stage and everything was lower down, and then the seats angled up, then the river of water just poured in on all in front where we were sitting and everything. I mean, it didn't cover the seats or anything, but it was running over your feet.
Yeah.
And then bathrooms were filling up with water, and it finally let up. After we were like in that condition for a good 10 minutes, and we're able to finally go sit down. And of course, our seats were soaking wet, but then we were too, so it didn't really matter. And then the band finally comes out, and everybody's like, "Hey, hey!" A bunch of people left, but the diehards were still there. And the band come out, and I remember them saying, "We were so scared for you guys. We were all down there praying that you were going to be okay up here. We were terrified. Thank God you're all okay." And it's like, Jesus, then we didn't find out till later on, after the whole thing was over with, got out to our cars, that a tornado was on the ground less than a half a mile from the stage. And it came through the back parking lot. but it didn't get any of the cars. There was like wooded area and houses and stuff behind there somewhere. I mean,
Yeah.
so it was right through there. I was there that day. So it's like me and storms. I wanted to be a meteorologist my whole life. I was a kid. There was two things I wanted to be: a meteorologist or a ocean the scientists that work in the ocean that work with dolphins and stuff.
Yeah.
Huh?
Marine biologist.
Marine biologist or meteorologist. Those were my two things I wanted to do. That didn't do either one. But
Right.
I've always been obsessed with tornado weather of all kinds, tornadoes, all
Yeah.
that. And I remember thinking when we got hit by the tornado in 2013 in the bedroom, and I had the realization that I was about to die, I thought, well, I'm going to die. Well, if I'm going to go out, I guess this is the way I want to go. That was my third. That was my, if you count the tornado at the music center, that was my fourth tornado that I was in. And I live in Indiana, for God's sake. It's not like I live in like Oklahoma where everybody's been through 4 tornadoes there.
Right. Yeah,
I live in Indiana. That was my fourth tornado. That was the worst by far.
Come on. The 2004 Indianapolis 500 is when that tornado went through there.
Okay. See, I remember I had flip-flops on, and I remember trying to run with flip-flops on, and they were wet, and I fell, and my shoe went flying. I don't even know where it went. And I hurt my knee so bad when I fell that I couldn't get up. And Dave is trying to get me up, and there's police all over the place directing people. And so they ran over and tried to pick me up and help me get up. Yeah, because I was running in wet flip-flops. Don't ever wear flip-flops to the Indy 500. I'm just saying. I always tell my friends, if you get a tornado warning and you're at home, bras and teeth, ladies, get your bras on and get your teeth in.
Right.
And put shoes on, because you don't want to be walking barefoot through glass and shit. I'm just saying.
You know what? We just had the wife and I just had a conversation. I have always, since forever, have always worn my shoes in the house. And people used to ask me all the time, why in the world are you wearing your shoes? You're in the house. Why don't you just take your shoes off and relax?
Yeah.
And it's like, what if there is a tornado? What if something like that was to happen and there's wood and nails and glass and everything all around? I would be the only one that had shoes on.
Well, I go without shoes in the house, and I wear house shoes. But if the weather's bad, I'm getting all my important papers and stuff in my safe place, and I am getting my shoes on. So definitely be sure you get shoes on, because you don't want to step in that. Shit's a mess. There's glass and nails everywhere. But definitely
the bottom of my shoe any damn way. But
But still, I mean, you don't want to be walking through it. Been there, done that. But definitely. So that's my advice for today: shoes,
bras and teeth.
Bras and teeth, ladies, bras and teeth. Because you don't want to be on the CBS News talking about how your house blew down and ain't got no teeth in. I just said, we were on the news.
Like that.
We were literally on the news. Our house was, I did have my teeth in, but our house was actually made the news because the helicopter flew over the damage in Kokomo after that tornado outbreak. That was one of the biggest tornado outbreaks in many, many years. It started in Washington, Illinois, and moved its way up, all the way up here. I don't know how many tornadoes. And in Washington, Illinois, it was an F4. And it was still a low F3. I mean, it was a low F2 to almost, it was like 160 miles an hour that hit us. A couple hours later that system went through. It was a big outbreak that day. The national news and the local news were flying overhead taking pictures, and they stopped. They literally flew right over our house and like circled around, and our house was on the national news, actually made the national news. So that's how bad it was. But I don't know what it is about my late friend Angelia Shearer. She used to I text her I'd say she lived in Nashville, and I'd be like, Angie, you better keep an eye on things. The tornado, and I do the same shit to you. I do it to all my friends. I'm like the weather queen. If I see crap headed your way and I can sense things, I'll warn you. You know, keep your eyes, get ready or whatever. Pay attention. And Angela, she messaged me back one day, and she's like, "Damn, girl, stop watching the weather. She said you're gonna manifest this shit." And I'm like, no, I just know it. I'm like, I'm one with the atmosphere. I could feel it when it's here. You know.
Yeah, I mean, I can see where she is coming from, though. Come on.
I can't help it. You know, it's partly that PTSD thing, but you know, I want to be aware of what's going on around me. That's how you survive.
My mother is the same way. So not only am I getting it from you, I'm getting it from my mother as well. And I'm like, it's just a little rain. And my mother, she is, to my knowledge, she has never been through a tornado. She just gets a little weird when it inclement weather, you know. I don't know if it's the thought of the possibilities or if she has been through a tornado or something like that. I don't know. But I've got Deb hitting me up in this hand, and my mom hit me up on this hand. They're like, watch out for the weather. It's going to get bad. The weather. And it's like, where I'm at is like the convergence of jet streams between the northern jet stream and the southern jet stream. So if I'm here, the jet stream from the south pushes all that up to my point, right? The northern jet stream comes in and they converge right there. So a lot of the weather, I mean, we'll get some inclement weather. I mean, we've had storms, don't get me wrong, but most of the bad stuff goes north or south of us.
That's usually what happens in Kokomo, but not always.
I mean,
we call it the Kokomo split. You know, it'll look like a full, complete line barreling towards us. And all of a sudden, something will happen around Lafayette and the line will break apart. And one part of it will swing up to the south and the other part will swing to the east. And there's this little gully in the middle of nothing. And that's usually what goes over Kokomo. But by God, if it's strong enough that it don't split, we're screwed.
Yeah, we'll have to start calling it the Richland something.
Yeah, they call it the Kokomo split here. So
I don't know what they call it here, but I mean,
of course we have the Kokomo hum.
Man, the first time I saw an actual tornado came down in the neighbor's backyard. We just bought a house over on the southwest side of Indianapolis. And that day was like tornadoes everywhere. There's like 6 or 7 spotted in the area and this, that, and the other. And we're standing looking out the back door, and Angie Parker just left our house and she was heading home in that mess. But Dee and I are standing at the back sliding door looking in our backyard, and this was a new construction area. And a funnel came right down out of the sky into the neighbor's backyard, probably 30 foot from us. And I'm the jackass standing in the door going, oh my God, would you look at that? And Deanna's going, let's go get our ass in the closet.
Yeah.
Let's go. And I'm like, but wait, look at this. And as soon as it hit the ground, it bounced right back up. But you could still see the rotation in the air. I mean, I'm that guy on the front porch taking the video.
I remember when one of the paranormal investigations we went on at the Crump. I don't know which time it was. There was a bad storm that came through, and I remember being outside with another bunch of people looking up, and I could literally see the clouds like swirling above me, like we were right below. Something was trying to churn up, and I'm like, "Oh Lordy!"
Right.
Well, I'm about to manifest us and get our ass whooped. But it didn't happen. Thank God it didn't happen.
I'm going to manifest us to go get in the closet. Okay.
Well.
So, all right. Well, listen up, people. Thank you for hanging out with us. We are at the top of the hour, and this test show, I think, was a success.
Yay. All of the hardware works. Yay.
and we're good to go and ready to get a bunch of stuff going. What we'll do, I'll go through the TikTok videos that you sent, and then I'll clip them out, and we'll play them on the show. I mean, we'd like to do a
like a montage.
Yeah, not even like, is it? What do you think? Is it real or not real?
Yeah,
real or not real?
Exactly. Yeah,
and we'll go from there. But I think that'd be a pretty fun segment to do. So,
and more excuses for me to waste time on TikTok.
I mean, twist my arm, I guess, if you have to. All right, you guys, remember, go over and check out our YouTube page, Midwest Pair Talk Radio. You can also check us out on Twitch at Old Man Gaming, O1D Man Gaming. You can check us out on Facebook and Twitter and all the socials. We're on there. I'm working on getting us back onto TikTok. We were doing TikTok Live, and then they changed their user agreements and the way that the lives happen. So I need to get back in there. I have to apply.
Isn't that special?
Right. So we'll do that and get back on all in the socials and everything. If you guys have any questions, comments, or concerns, you can hit up Deb at debcobble@gmail.com, or you can hit up me, gcable@midwestfairtalkradio.com. So out of here. We'll see you guys maybe Thursday night. Yeah, probably. So, all right. We'll see you guys. Thanks for hanging out, and bye-bye. Say goodbye, Deb.
Goodbye, Deb.
Goodbye, Gracie.